Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I have Cooper Chapman joining me today. He's the founder of the Good Human Factory. He's the host of the Good Human podcast, and he's someone making moves in the mental health space. He's got a 10-year history of surfing professionally, and is making a lot of moves in the mental health space, running workshops, working with clients, and making moves. So, Cooper, thank you for joining me today, brother.
Mate, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. It's always great getting to chat to other podcasters and get to share my story. I've been lucky to live a pretty extraordinary life. So, yeah, hopefully your listeners get some positive little bits out of it.
From this, I came across your content with Wim Hof, and we'll probably talk to him about him later, but I saw you at an event with Wim Hof just speaking. There was a friend of a mutual connection that we have that was down there, and I just went down your rabbit hole. I was watching all the stuff you're doing, and man, it looks like you're changing lives, man. It looks like you're making impacts. So, man, I'd love to know, I guess, your story. I guess what brought you to who you are now, what brought you into the mental health space, and I guess who you are, because, man, I've met you an hour ago, less than that, so love to hear, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess best way to describe me is a kind and caring person who's curious for ways to continue to evolve and be the best person I possibly can be. And I'm now lucky enough to have a business where I get to convey messages to people through my podcast, through workshops, through merchandise, a whole range of things. But yeah, I grew up as a professional surfer, grew up in Sydney down on the Northern Beaches, a place called Narrabeen.
Epic.
Beautiful family, 3 sisters, mum and dad still together, one older sister, 2 younger, so really tight-knit family. And I look back with nothing but gratitude for my upbringing, to be honest. There was lots of, I mean, we all go through ups and downs, but looking back as a whole, now that I do get to speak to a lot of people about their stories, mine was very privileged. So yeah, I look back with nothing but gratitude on my childhood.
Beautiful, bro. And how did you get into, I guess, the mental health space? You, well, obviously speaking just before we clicked record, you had some experiences through family and it kind of just brought it to your awareness. How did that sort of happen for you?
Yeah, so mental health has been a long journey, I guess, in my existence. When I was quite young, I lost an uncle to suicide. I remember when I was about, I think I was like 5 or 6. I just remember my dad like coming downstairs, first time I'd seen him really crying and struggling to deal with that. It was his brother. And then throughout my teen years, I watched my dad struggle at times with alcohol addiction and a bit of depression, a bit of anxiety here and there. And he would try and see psychologists, and my mum kind of would be like, oh, get over it. Didn't really believe in it. So I kind of saw both sides of and I understand where she's coming from. I really saw both sides of the spectrum. No intention at all to start a business. Throughout my 20s as a professional athlete, I had my own ups and downs. I wouldn't say I really struggled, but I think because of that almost fear that I had because of my family history from my uncle to my dad, I almost had this underlying fear of, ooh, maybe I'm going to go down that path. I better upskill myself. And then when I did start to maybe struggle a little bit with my own mental health, because I really used to base my whole identity was Cooper the pro surfer. And when I was a successful junior surfer, that was fine. But then I went to the international tour when I was about 20, and I did quite well, to be honest, looking back. But in my mind, I was failing. I went from sort of top 3 Australians to kind of between 50 and 100 in the world, top 3 Australian juniors. And then, yeah, it made me struggle a bit with my mental health. But my sports psych said something to me that was super important in my early 20s. He said, I want you to stop basing your self-worth and your identity on Cooper the pro surfer, because quite often you're going to come up short of those expectations, those goals that you set out, and then your well-being is going to suffer. So he said to me, I want you to start basing your self-worth and your identity on how well you can live to your values. So I feel like I got a very good lesson from a age at the right time that sparked a bit of curiosity. Okay, what are my values? Where can I find them? And he told me, go and read some self-development books, go and read some autobiographies of greats who have gone through their own challenges. I will get to the mental health part in a second while I started a business.
This is a beautiful story, man.
Yeah.
Like, so credit to the person that's given you this feedback, like this advice.
It was my sports psychologist. He was instrumental in so much of my learnings. He's we're Surfing Australia, but fast forward a few more years, and this is why I started a mental health organisation. I'll give you the long version of the story. So I'd run a few surf camps for young kids surfing because I was struggling to make enough money to go to my events. I didn't have a sponsor. I was working as a tradie full time, but I was like, I could make more money if I did like a specialized elite training camp for young surfers. So I did that. And at the training camp, not only did I do surfing, gym, skateboarding, I also took them through a bit of a meditation and visualization thing because that was something pretty important to me. And after the camp, a lot of the parents told me, my dad, the kids really got a lot out of the workshop. I mean, the meditation and mindfulness. And at the time, once again, didn't think anything of starting a mental health business. I was just like, oh, how interesting. A few months later, my younger sister came home from school one day and we're sitting around the dinner table, mum and dad, 3 sisters, and my younger sister was in year 12 at high school. And she said one of the boys in her year had taken his life.
Wow.
And it's just, you hear of suicide far too often, but when it's really that close to home, it's your sister and it's a mate at school. It's a hard one, and I kind of, like most of us, I think I would have been about 24 at the time. I was like, oh, this sucks. Wish I could do something about it. Looked up the statistics. I was like, wow, this is really bad.
Crazy, eh?
Posted a tile on Instagram, and life went on.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, my sister came home. Same situation. Mum, dad, family, all around the dinner table. Another friend had taken his life. And that was when I was like, you know what? I need to try and do something about this. And I kind of told my family, I was like, maybe I can do something about this. Like, I'm traveling the world, living the best life. Like, I'm so blessed what I've got to do for the last 15 years of my life. But then there's kids in my local area that are so sad and depressed and feel like there's no escape from their mind, that they're taking their life. And my dad said, like, why don't you try and go and speak to some of the kids at schools about what you've done? I've seen that you've worked hard on your mental health. You do a lot of things that I see that's pretty unique compared to most people your age. Maybe you could inspire some kids to pick up those skills. And I was like, all right. I'll give my old school teacher a call. There was friends of mine, and called him, told him what had happened at the other school my sister was at. Just said I want to come and talk to the kids and share a bit about my story, some of the things that I've learned along my journey, and maybe they can relate to it. And he was like, yep, no worries. Let's go and have a beer at the pub. Caught up with my old school teacher. This was back in 2019. And told him the idea. He's like, yep, I'd love for you to come and talk to the kids. And he was an entrepreneurial young mind, where he was only in his early 20s when he was teaching me, when I was like 16, 17. And I had a chat to him, and he was like, mate, there's a big market for public speaking. You're obviously passionate about this. Like, you can come and speak to the kids at our school and share your little workshop. We'll give you some feedback and you can try and build on that. Cool. And that was, I did the first workshop, I think, in early 2020. And yeah, in the last 3 years, I've spoken to over 30,000 students. I've gotten to, speak to corporates from like Apple, Telstra, and McDonald's.
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to know that someone, I mean, I usually say without any education. Like, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a professional in any way, but I'm just someone who's super curious about mental health and has found a lot of really beneficial things that we never get taught at school, that we very rarely get pushed through the media. And I'm just trying to act as a conduit to connect curious minds with simple mental health strategies now.
You articulate really well. You're a good communicator, man.
Thank you.
There's a quote that came to mind as you were talking. It was this TED Talk. It was one of the most viewed TED Talks about the education system, about schooling. And it was like, everyone's born a genius and we're educated out of it. And then you keep, I'm curious. And I guess some of my beliefs in the teachings I do is when you follow your curiosity and your inspiration, it leads you to your purpose and your path in life. So I think even just maybe 2 seconds of your thoughts on that, about even for people listening, allowing yourself to follow your curiosity, because you went from pro surfing and you're like, hey, yeah, I'm pretty keen to do that. I'll give that a shot. And it led to one thing that led to another. Now you're speaking for Apple, speaking for Telstra, running a business. Like, it's, I guess maybe your thoughts on just being able to listen to that voice and follow that curiosity. What was that like for you?
I think I've always just had this feeling that I don't want to be normal. I lost my major sponsor when I was about 22.
Yeah.
I was sponsored by Hurley for surfing for like 7 years, getting paid enough money to be able to fund my career. Yeah. But then I lost them, and yeah, it became pretty tricky. I had to work full time as a tradie, doing labouring for 50 hours a week to fund my surf career. And I got a bit of a taste of what else is out there, but I've always had this curiosity and been around enough successful people that they just seem to have been a different way. My family was never wealthy, but enough to get by. But my dad and my family has always been on the kind of 30-year mortgage. This is a way to like be secure, be safe. And it just, I don't know. I've just always like questioned that, because I've been lucky enough to travel the world, be around people who have generated wealth, be around people who are really having an impact in the world. That I think was the inspiration for me. I was like, there's more than just, for me, and I completely understand that for some people, like, go to uni, get an office job, start a family, buy a house, that's their dream. Yeah. But for me, it wasn't. I was lucky enough to have seen so much of the world from my travel with surfing that I was like, I just want to learn as much as I can, meet as many people as I can, and hopefully be able to share my story and pass on my knowledge to inspire as many as possible. So I think that was sort of where the curiosity came from, the understanding from my athletic career of traveling that there's so much out there, there's so much opportunity out there, but also having the understanding that if you work super hard at something, you can achieve quite greatly. And in surfing, I think my highest rank was about 50th in the world when there's millions of surfers in the world. So it's like, now I'm looking at my career as a speaker. If I can get into that top 100 in the world, like, I'm far more successful than the top surfer. Like, speakers and inspirational people who have a way to communicate messages in a way that can change people's lives. I think is, it's one of the most noble way to sort of live.
It's beautiful, bro, and it's very inspiring. The amount of action that you're taking. Before we move on to the next topic, self-doubt, was that showing up for you? Was it like you just seem to take action after action after action? And I just know from the outside looking in, sometimes people see someone who's doing quite well and they're like, oh, it's easy, comes easy for him. There's no self-doubt, or they think you're a robot and it doesn't come easy. I would assume there'd be challenges and issues and things you've had to work on to get through that. Was self-doubt a part of that, as part of that journey that you've gone through from professional surfing to just taking action? Because I'm speaking from someone who I know struggled with confidence, struggled to take that first initial step. Once I'm in, if I can get rolling. But sometimes to take that leap, to go from a professional surfer into the mental health space, that's quite a transition. So was self-doubt playing a part with you with all this?
Yeah, I mean, a big one was imposter syndrome, obviously, going into an industry where quite often you talk about mental health and people straight away go, oh, you're a psychologist. It's like, oh no, I've just got some really good skills that I've learnt that I like to pass on with people. So the imposter syndrome was massive, and it still is at times, especially not so much with the speaking now. I found one of the best things for that was getting feedback and getting indisputable data from thousands of people now that my workshop is having impact, and getting that feedback has been a huge one for me for that self-doubt. But every time I go into a new challenge with the business, whether it be, all right, I need to understand accounting and cash flow and growing that side of the business, that's a whole new learning. And I absolutely have self-doubt every moment of every day with that stuff. But I haven't had a single moment where I haven't felt like what I'm building and creating isn't going to work. And I put it down to the fact, and I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, that the way I look at it is there's not really a destination, or there's not really a goal with a good human factory. It's like, if there was a goal, that would be like trying to get west on a compass. Like, you can never get west, but my whole goal is to make sure that I'm heading in the right direction. I know the work that I'm doing is getting good feedback, getting a lot of messages that the work that I'm, the podcast, the workshops are having really big impact. So by, understanding that, it is really quieting down that self-doubt.
Cool, man. There's a couple of directions I wanted to take that. How did that transition into the workshops, as in running events like the one that I'm referring to with Wim Hof? Like
that's a real left field one.
Okay, touch on that, and then
okay. So the Humankind event where Wim Hof spoke at, that's a very left field one. That was the first event that I've ever spoke at that you could buy tickets to come and watch me. Generally, if you want to book me, it's through a high school, through a corporate group, gets me to come in privately. Humankind was an amazing event down in Sydney at Luna Park. It was put on by a guy by the name of John Winning, who owns Appliances Online and Winning Group, who just happens to be one of my really close friends. Somehow. And he just asked me to come and speak at the event. It's I won't go super into the story about why he started the event. I did a podcast with him actually a few episodes ago. It'd be like 95 of Good Humans podcast. If you want to learn about the event from him, I had him on the podcast. But he said, do you want to come and speak at the event? And I was like, absolutely, this will be great. And there's a bunch of other great speakers, from Matt Mullenweg, the CEO of WordPress. Wim Hof was speaking, Mark Burris, Ned Brockman, Dr. Charlie Teo, who's world-leading neurosurgeon. There was just all these incredible speakers. And then on the first night was like Jim Jeffries and a big comedy show. The second night was like Guy Sebastian and a big music festival. And on the second day, part of the whole 3-day summit was Ice Baths with Wim Hof, which was super cool. And because John's my friend, we call him Herman, I got invited to a pre-dinner a couple nights before with a few of the speakers, which was it was epic. Wim Hof was there. This other guy, Nigel Beach, was there, who spoke on stage with Wim, who's like a breath work and high performance coach. Incredible man. He
great network. Good opportunity.
Yeah, so I went to a dinner and just got to spend some time with them and got to meet them and become friends, which was amazing. Because then a few weeks after the event, Nigel who was sort of Wim's right-hand man there, we just kept chatting on socials, and my younger sister at times struggles a bit with her mental health, but she came to the event and really loved the breath work. And I told Nigel, and this guy's like a super high level elite, like 6 month wait list to get a session with him.
Wow.
And I told him, and he's like, oh, tell your sister I'll get on a call with her and have a free session. And she did it yesterday, actually. And
How'd you go?
she was stoked. She was like, I'm going to tape my mouth. I bought the tape for it, doing this and that, like all this stuff. And I was like,
Epic.
that's pretty cool, the sort of people that came from that event. Like, it wasn't just to get paid, come and speak. Like, I don't think any of the speakers even got paid. I mean, maybe the big ones did, but pretty much everyone was friends of this John Winning guy. And it was a spectacular event. Getting to jump in the ice bath with Wim and stuff was a pretty cool experience.
Has that done much for your journey? Has that given you like a bit of a step up with connections, opportunities from doing that event?
Nothing like I haven't like booked 10 workshops because of it, but absolutely the networking from it. Obviously, having Nigel as someone in my network now, I linked him up with the brand Arepa, who sponsor my podcast. And he's a big, obviously, high performance coach. They're a brain drinks, and now they're friends. So it was just a good like marrying together of a lot of people who are just curious minds trying to make the world a better place. So like got to become friends with one of the world leading neurosurgeons. Got to meet all these people and just, I guess, call them somewhat friends now. We had a really cool after party back at Herman's for just the speakers in the event.
That's cool.
I mean, I wasn't drinking, but it was a late night, getting to really network, and we're partying with like Reggie Watts and all these biggest DJs in the world. So yeah, it was a whirlwind of a couple of days of an event.
Beautiful. Just because you mentioned the word, man, I'd love to, if you're cool, jump into that drinking conversation. I remember it's today, right? The 100 day?
No, 365, 1 year. Yeah, yesterday. 2 days ago was the full year.
Man, I guess I don't even know the context on the background of that. So what, I guess, sparked that, or what for the audience, guys, everyone listening, what has the journey been like over the last year for this?
Yeah, so back in April 2022, I had this lady by the name of Nicole Vignola on my podcast. She's a neuroscientist. And we spoke about the effects of so many things on the brain, from sleep to nutrition to drugs and alcohol. And one of the things when we started to speak about alcohol, I was just like, far out. There's all these negative things about alcohol. We never get really told it. And just on air, I was just sort of like sitting there going like, far out. Like, I'm doing these podcasts. I'm like got a pretty big audience now. Maybe I can challenge myself and do a year off alcohol and maybe bring some people along the journey and document it and try and inspire some people to, follow along. And that was, I literally on the podcast said I'll take from 28 until 29 off. I was about 2 weeks away from my 28th birthday.
Cool.
So I was like 10 years of drinking, 18 to 28, 1 year off. Seems fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I took a year off and just finished, but I think I'll probably keep going with it. I don't know if I'll really go back to the same relationship I used to have with alcohol.
What have you noticed, like mentally, spiritually? What's been the difference?
A few main ones. Firstly, like sleep. My sleep has improved so much. I use a lot of things to track my sleep and fitness. I don't have a Whoop. I've got an Oura Ring and an Apple Watch Ultra. So between the two of them, I've got lots of tracking, and my sleep has drastically improved, which has been great. Just knowing that Sundays are actually to recharge, not to be hungover.
Yeah. Cool.
What else?
That's a great little distinction. I like that.
Yeah, seriously. And that's what I used to think. Oh yeah, Sundays I just like be hungover in the dark all day. That'll rest me for the week, but no. And
I think, from experience, like in the business world, like sleep gets so underrated. It's like hustle, and it's like I found some screenshot of it the other day when I was in like the sort of hustle period of my gym journey. I was like living off between 4 to 5.5 hours of sleep, and I'd be like, sleep when you're dead, and I'd joke about it like it's a badge of pride, but it's like, if I don't get 8 hours now, I'm like, it's just such a priority. And like, you're sharper, you're clearer, you handle stress better, make better decisions. So yeah, I just think it's so underrated in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I think sleep's massive. And then what else from alcohol? Obviously, like financially, it's been great, saving money, not trying to just go out all the time. My immunity's been amazing. I haven't got sick once the last year. I've been feeling really good. But yeah, I think one of the main things was just sort of questioning the whole society norm. Like, why are we all in this sort of trap of all the biggest psychologists in the world work for these corporations, and their job is in marketing to trick us into, when you buy our product, that'll make you happy. Yeah. Come and have a beer, that'll make you feel good. It's like, well, once we start to really have a question about that, go, wait, you're just telling me that because you're profiting off it, not because it might make me feel good for a minute, but all the science now proves that it's terrible for me. Yeah. So why are we allowing this? So yeah, I just started to question that a little bit, and it feels good now to know that I have control over those psychologists who are trying to trick me.
Powerful, man. Fucking powerful. I guess, going into the Good Human Factory, what do you guys do? Tell us, like, what are your workshops like? What's the mission like? And I guess when following questions will be like, how do you help people from a implementation? Like, someone listening to this, is it meditation? Is it journaling? Is it questions they can ask themselves? Is it getting good sleep? Like, what is it that you guys do as a mission? And then how can we add some tools and some takeaways to the guys listening today?
Yeah, so simply our mission is to connect curious minds with simple mental health strategies.
I love that. That's very good.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it very succinct. I read Building a Story Brand by Donald, I can't remember his last name recently. Donald Miller. Great book.
Cool.
And it's all about having a really clear mission statement. So I think that lands very clearly.
What was the name of that again?
Building a Story Brand.
I like that.
Great book. And another good book is Sabri Subi's Sell Like Crazy.
It's on my bookshelf.
Yeah, great book. Read it. It's a good book. I got done by the bloody YouTube ad. I was like, fuck, if I buy it, maybe it won't come up every time.
He's good, man.
He's amazing.
For Sabri, I signed up to his Quantum Growth course, so I'm going through his course right now. So highly recommend anyone want to learn sales and marketing. Sabri's your boy. But keep going, man.
I forgot where I'm at now, but
what are we talking about?
I was talking about how did I get to books?
Okay,
what it is. So connecting curious minds. And I landed on that because there's multiple, I call it pillars now of the Good Human Factory. Initially, it was just workshops. That was when I first started. My mission was get in front of as many people, share my story, develop a workshop that's inspiring and great. And when I say workshop, my workshop is an interactive keynote. It's like an hour with a few different exercises we do, mainly me sharing my story out the front, but that group gets to do a couple of things as we go. So initially started as workshops. So that's one of the main pillars. Obviously, that's probably the core pillar. Number 2 would be the podcast. The podcast is, something super important to me now, being able to have conversations, bring in experts, allow people to, once again, connect curious minds to mental health strategies. By hearing other people's stories, they're learning mental health strategies. So I try and guide my conversations into people's things that they do to help them and learn from their stories. So the podcast is a big one. Also, we do merchandise. Anyone who's watching.
I was going to ask about gratitude. He's wearing a gratitude shirt on. You can see it on the camera. For guys aren't listening, he's wearing a shirt with gratitude on it.
Gratitude across the chest. So I do merchandise as well. That's just something for a bit of fun to be able to spread messages and give like subtle subconscious marketing cues, but not be like most of the mental health charities and do the full like down your throat. I won't say any of the slogans because it'll be obvious who I'm talking about, but there's absolutely a market for that. But I wanted to make it like cool. People want to wear it. People align with what the Good Human Factory is, the message of trying to just, do those little things right. So do merchandise. Another pillar is, I guess, our community. Going off Gary V's kind of thing. I was like, instead of just expecting people to come and purchase, you got to give to them. So I started this thing called the 1% Good Club. Cool. So basis of the 1% Good Club is we should all give 1% of our day to our mental health. Hopefully everyone listening can agree. It's most important. It's the biggest killer of people aged 14 to 44 in the country. Pretty important. We should be able to give 1% of our day to it. 100%. So 1% of a day is 14 minutes. So every morning I send on Instagram group chats a 10-minute meditation. And then at night I send 3 things I'm grateful for in a message. And that's 14 minutes. 4 minutes of gratitude, 10 minutes of meditation. Cool. 1% Good Club. So that started 650 days ago now. And now there's 10.
I love your level of tracking, man. It's really cool. Really
I just know that because I've done it every day and I send it to, there's about 1,000 people now. It's grown from obviously the first week was like 20 and now there's 1,000.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Over 2 years. And there's been over 300,000 gratitudes written in from just strangers from all around the world trying to give 1% of their day to their mental health over, the past 2 years. So
fucking cool.
That's cool. Like a part of it, the community. And then also we have ambassadors. So I brought together a bunch of sort of top level athletes around the country who are just close friends of mine, but the core part of it was to make sure that they're truly a good person, someone who I really see an inspiration from myself, but somebody that I know can have an impact on their community by aligning with the message. And I'd been an ambassador for mental health charities before and it felt quite forced. It felt like there was one that I was getting paid and it just didn't feel right. And I was like, no, I want to make something that's by like for young athletes to help spread this message. So the ambassadors is a pillar, and then kind of events I'm starting to get into. I'm throwing a retreat in Bali in July, which is going to be dope. But yeah, there's lots of things that I juggle, and I've done it all completely by myself until I kind of got a girl doing a few hours a week for me for the last month.
Well done, man.
And yeah, other than that, juggled it all myself. All the editing of the podcast, all the
Wow.
delivery of the workshop, all the creation of the workshop, all the networking and talking to clients and invoicing and everything else in between. The merch design, the merch, like obviously get it printed somewhere, but all the packing and stuff for my orders all myself. Like, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in the Good Human Factory, but yeah, it's in a nice place where I can start to expand now.
I've got a couple more questions in there. So then
Go for it. Yeah, I spat it out.
I'm trying to get all my time, all the juicy ones. Mentorship, I wrote that down earlier. Like, man, even what you said, you're doing so many pieces of it. Have you had a background in any business or entrepreneurship? Have you got mentors guiding you? Because, man, you're doing fucking awesome. Like, you're helping a lot of people. The mission statements, you're huge into learning. Leaders are readers, and you're doing a lot of reading, a lot of growing, which is really cool. Yeah, I guess has mentorship played a role in this whole journey that you've had so far?
I definitely have some amazing people around me. Don't get me wrong. I have had some people help me along the way in different avenues that have been massive. I have some friends who have a motorbike brand called Fist Handwear, and they let me store all my merch out of their office and really helped with a bunch of the printing and bankrolled a bunch of it because they're just my good friends and wanted to help me out last year. So like things like that along the journey have been a massive help. And yeah, I definitely have different people around me that I get advice from here and there, but on a sort of structured level, not too much, and definitely don't have any business acumen behind me. But I mean, I just keep failing forwards kind of the process right now. Just learn stuff and go into it with the mindset instead of feeling average that I don't know what I'm doing, just being like, nobody knows what they're doing the first time they go after it. And a big one that I've been using is just the act of confidence comes before the feeling of confidence, before waiting to act, just being like, oh, I'm just going to pretend I know what I'm doing. If it starts working, great. If not, I'll pivot.
Man, you're just a chest of wisdom, man. You've got you mentioned one before, building a story brand. I guess top recommendations on books that you've done. Obviously, Sabri Subi, Sell Like Crazy. I can definitely back that one up. Book recommendations for that you've
depends done. What angle you want. I'll give you one that I'll give you some books that once I've read, and you'll agree with this. There's books that you read and you don't live a day your life after the same.
I keep them there. the ones right next to you.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So I just finished reading this book called Breath by James Nestor.
I have heard of it. Haven't
Incredible. I guarantee you'll read that and you'll breathe differently every day moving forward. You'll breathe more through your nose. You'll try and breathe down to the bottom of your stomach. You'll understand what breath work is, and incredible. So Breath, but I just finished reading that last week. What are a few other really good ones?
What was your biggest takeaway from Breath?
That we should be breathing through our nose, that we're not built to breathe through our mouth. Our mouth is for eating, and that the reason why we've been moving away from our nose is our mouth getting smaller. That's why people are getting teeth taken out. And the reason for that is since we've industrialized food and farming, food's gotten softer. We've been chewing less. It's shrunk our mouth. So when we pull out teeth, it's actually really bad because it's closing our whole cavity up. And that's why we're finding it hard to breathe. That's why people are ending up. So like if you're snoring, if you got sleep apnea, mouth taping, or just go read the book. It'll change your life. So that's a good one. Another really good one, highly, highly recommend, Lost Connections by Johan Hari. Probably the best book I've ever read. If you're curious about mental health, it's called Lost Connections, Why You're Depressed and How to Find Hope. Wow. And it's really interesting because it was the first book that really pushed my thinking outside of the realm of the medical system almost now. It allowed me to think a bit more abstract when it came to mental health, that it's about the connections we have with people. It goes on to kind of diss a lot of the data when it comes to pharmaceuticals, when it comes to mental health.
There's a book there on the top, The Body Keeps the Score, and it goes into all of that stuff. It's like, I want to read that. There's like, even if you just, one of the lines in it's just so simple, I'm about to say it, but like clicked for me. It's like, if antidepressants actually worked, why is depression getting worse?
Exactly.
I was like, you're so fucking right. But it comes down to like he goes into trauma, what you haven't healed through, but your day-to-day stuff. Are you exercising, meditating, what food are you eating, sleep? Like it's all of that stuff. So
it's all connected.
Absolutely agree, man. But
So Lost Connections, another amazing one. What are some other good books? Grit by Angela Duckworth. You read that?
I did the audio a while ago. I'm just for my own learning experience. I used to like do audios, but I try to get through them as fast as I can to read it, but I couldn't retain any of it. So I'm going back through and rereading everything.
Sick.
So Becoming Supernatural is the one I'm doing at the moment.
Oh, I haven't read that yet. It's on my bookshelf. It's long.
I get goosebumps. I have read that. I'm rereading it now, man. Just like if you know Joe Dispenza's story, how he healed his back, like he goes into it, man. It's like
I gotta read it. It's on my shelf.
If this is the sign, fucking do it, man. Can't rate it enough. But yeah, I'm for anyone that wants to retain, because I find like someone's like, oh yeah, I've read that book. What'd you get out of it? Oh, they can't really answer it. I'm like, and that was me, because I would just like do 1.25 speed through books to finish the book, but I couldn't retain shit.
Yeah.
So all the ones I really enjoyed, I'm rereading them to really get it out.
And books are all about timing. Like if they come to you at the right time in your life, sometimes they don't connect. Like, yeah, I've read so many great books that have just like changed so many things. Like Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty, The Resilience Project, Hugh Van Cuylenberg, Extreme Ownership.
That's on the shelf.
Jocko Willink. Look at this. We've got the same mindset when it comes to books. But yeah, all of those have been amazing. But yeah, I'm always looking for more. I've been, just always looking for good books.
If you were to write a book yourself, what would be the main pillars you'd have in it in terms of chapters or takeaways for people? Or maybe your top three pillars?
It's just hard. I was talking to a publisher last year about doing a book, but it just seemed like too much work when you can obviously hear how much I'm juggling right now. But I've thought about it a few times, whether it would be, I think it would be somewhat a story about my life, but with the lessons I've learned throughout it. So,
what are your top 3 lessons? As of now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the main lessons would have been when my sports psych said to me, stop basing your self-worth off your achievements, start basing on your values. That was pretty pivotal in that lesson, which would, I guess, move into number 2, which would be those values that I've landed on. And this is what my workshop is when I go do my workshops at schools. Same thing. I talk about that story. I go into the values that I've landed on. So the 5 values I talk about are responsibility. We're going to make the choice whether we want to be the victim or the hero of our story. Second one's gratitude. Living with a grateful mindset is one of the greatest ways that we can take care of our mental health. It's there's so much great data and science that shows what happens in our brain when we practice gratitude. So that's the second one. Third one's empathy. It's a skill that we all have. We can all expand on. We can listen better. We can respect each other more. We can have less judgment. The fourth one is mindfulness. The more that we can be present, the more that we can be still with ourselves. Super important. And the last one's kindness. I just wish we got taught more about kindness at school, and there's so much great data now that proves kinder people are happier people. So yeah, just trying to get those messages out to people. And I don't know, last chapter of the book still to be written, I guess, maybe about relationships. I'm very excited. My partner's been in Brazil for 5 months. She's Brazilian and she's moving here for a year next week. So yeah, maybe about connection, the third chapter.
Epic, bro. Well, we'll do a follow-up podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Can you go into, there's 2 in there that for me, I would love your understanding of it. 1, mindfulness, and 2, gratitude, obviously with the shirt as well.
Yeah.
I guess, what does gratitude, we'll start with gratitude. What does gratitude mean to you? And then how can someone practice it? Because I'm a rugby league background, so sports background, and like, you don't really hear gratitude in the footy sheds, right? It's like smashing beers, chasing girls, footy was kind of my upbringing, and gratitude was not even a word I knew, to be honest. So what's your, I guess, view on gratitude, and how can one practice it on a, like you mentioned the group that you do, 10 minutes, 10-minute meditation, 4 minutes in the afternoon. But yeah, what does gratitude mean to you, and how can someone incorporate that into their life?
So I've been lucky. I got gratitude drilled into me from a young age, but not by the name of gratitude. My dad always said to me as a kid, appreciation, not expectation. Appreciation, not expectation, Cooper. I still haven't heard that anywhere else.
Tony Robbins.
Appreciation, not expectation. I swear it's different though. My dad does just 3 words. Appreciation, not expectation. I swear there's usually like a longer version. Anyway, and my dad definitely hasn't listened to Tony Robbins. So, but he just like would always say it to me as a kid. And now I know it's just focus on the things that you do have rather than the things that you don't have. Be appreciative of what you've already got rather than expecting something more, because we can always have more. We can always have bigger. We can always have better. It's when we start to focus our energy on what we already have that life seems to open up a bit more. So, I mean, I say to people in my workshops, this is the greatest way to practice gratitude. If I said to you right now, what are you grateful for? You might go, my friends, my family, my health. Tomorrow, pretty hard to come up with another 3. So we need to do it really small, and forming a healthy habit's tough for anyone.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's had that age-old New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to get fit and healthy this year. It gets to Jan 7 and it's like, maybe next year I'll get fit and healthy. It happens to all of us. So how do we make it simple to practice gratitude? So what I say to people is when you brush your teeth each night, it's something we all do every night. Easy one to remember. Bit of James Clear, Atomic Habits, Habit Stacking. There's another great book.
I finished that. That was my one I finished just before that one. So,
mate, isn't that funny? We all read the same shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you brush your teeth, habit stack.
Yeah.
Just think a question in your head. What are 3 things that went well today? What are
Good
3 things I enjoyed about today? You might have had a hot shower. It felt nice to wash off your body. You might have had your favorite food for dinner.
Yeah.
You might have had a conversation with a friend at work that was just really nice to hear what they've been up to. It's not about finding the big things. It's about finding those little things each day. So yeah, that's gratitude. I think it's pretty easy to practice, but it does take a bit of effort. And don't do it once tonight and then wake up tomorrow and go, oh, I'm not happy. It's like doing one sit up at the gym, looking at your abs and going, oh, where's my six pack?
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. We need to turn it into just a ritual that we do every day.
Yeah.
So that's gratitude. And then mindfulness, obviously there's meditation as a practice, I believe, for mindfulness, which I try and do every single day, just sitting with our thoughts. Like you're probably going to tell me that this number's wrong, but we have around 50,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah. I've heard figures like that.
Yeah, I've heard figures 50, 70, 30. But yeah, we have a lot of thoughts every single day. And for most of us, about 70% of them are negative and repetitive. So it's like, how do we build a better relationship with our thoughts? And what I've found is meditation is the greatest way to do that, to witness them, to understand how untrue so many of them are, how unhelpful so many of them are, and then start to try and change that pattern. So meditation's been a great way for me to get into that. But then I kind of call mindfulness like the value of what meditation is, the value of being present. Yeah. And that comes out in every part of our life, whether when we're talking to people, we're looking into their eyes, whether we're actually listening engagingly. Yeah. Whether
any tips on presence? That's something that I've been, I guess, a theme of my life this year is being able to be more present, whether it's this conversation right now, whether it's with my partner, whether it's doing work, whether it's driving, whether it's meditating, like learning that art of being in the present moment. That's actually huge in that book, actually. So yeah, any tips on, I guess, being able to practice that presence a little bit more?
If I'm being completely honest, it is something I really struggle with as well. And I feel like it's getting worse because of bloody devices, business, like so much moving parts. So it is really tough to become present. But there's a few little quotes that I've found have helped me in different parts of my life. One that I heard recently is, listen, don't just wait to talk. Yeah. And when I heard that, I was like, there's so many times that I'm talking. So it's just those little like non-judgmental reminders of myself, catching myself out when I'm not present and being kind with it, but being like, oh, there it is again. Oh, I wasn't actually listening to that person. Oh, there it is again. I went on my phone while someone was talking to me. Oh, there it is again. Yeah. I wasn't looking into the person's eyes. And just catching myself. And then another quote that I love, I heard recently Ben Crow speak about on the Imperfects podcast. He said, be interested, not interesting. And when I heard that, I was like, it's so true. We all want to like kind of talk about ourselves, but it's a lot more present when we're actually listening to people, when we're learning from them. So yeah, there are a couple. And then as well, just like connecting to our senses has been one of the biggest one, like checking in on our breath. If we're ever catching our mind going everywhere, checking, are we breathing through our nose or our mouth when we're doing that? Are we breathing to our belly or our chest? And usually when we're flustered and when we're not present, we're breathing through our mouth, we're breathing into our chest. We're kind of just not actually being still with the moment and just being present in the moment. So I think connecting with our breath is a massive one, and connecting with our senses. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I feel? Yeah. Once we get into our body and into these senses, which are only in the present moment, then we get to be more present. You
articulate really well, man. Yeah, yes.
I do this stuff for a living. So it's pretty good.
I'm enjoying the I'm enjoying the show, man. I'm getting the most out of this. I didn't actually go into the question from the Good Human Factory. What tips, you've probably just given like 10 just then, but what would you, if someone just isn't able to attend, maybe they're in a different country, they're not able to attend one of your workshops, what would like some of the big values that you'd recommend for them that who aren't able to come see you in person? What can they do today? What can they incorporate into their life to improve their mental health, to be more present, to just, again, you probably just gave like 10 tips out of it. So is there anything else out of those workshops that you run that you'd recommend for someone who just doesn't have the opportunity to come see you?
I mean, I think the first step is just to be open-minded. Okay, what can I do? What little things could I add to my toolbox that might improve my life? and then go out there and seek it. It comes back to us taking the own responsibility. Everyone's looking for something but doesn't really want to execute. So it's like, all right, find a few things and actually give it a week or two, whether it be meditating each day for a week. How does it make you feel? Meditate each day for a month. How does it make you feel? And actually sticking to something. But yeah, the few main ones are just like meditation each day, even if it's 5 minutes, just trying to sit still for a few days. I do breath work every day. That's a massive one for me. I find a lot of benefits out of that.
Can you give just 2 seconds on each of those in terms of, because when you say meditation, when I first got into that world, it freaked me out. I'm like, what? Like you Google meditation, and there's like fucking thousands. You know, like, which one do you do? So, and breath work, not as much. I say there's a lot of different styles of breath work. What do you do? Style of meditation? Is there a podcast you've got? Have you got resources? Is there a YouTube that you use? Meditation wise, and what type of breath work do you do?
So the one that I do in the 1% Club, I just literally send a YouTube link every time. Google or YouTube guided 10-minute meditation. Cool. There's a few different ones that update every single day. So I just send one of them. I feel like learning the guided ones are a great way to start because our minds do go so much when we can follow a guide. It's a good beginning point. I probably should upgrade my 1% Club now because I've been doing it for 2 years to not guided, but that's what they get. And I kind of change. I have some friends who have a meditation school called Mindspo. I did their course, and then they have an app called Manifesti, which is about manifestation and meditation. So I use their app. I think it's like $7 a month or something, maybe even less, maybe like $4 a month. But yeah, they're actually hosting my retreat with me. So I use their app quite a bit for my own meditation. So it's called Manifesti. If you want to check that out, there's some beautiful things on that. And then also... I've done like a Vedic meditation course, which is just not... I've really enjoyed that for a while. I kind of just move in and out of stuff. I'm always looking for new things, and I go through little seasons where I like doing that, and then I'll change it up for a little while and not get too caught up on if I miss a day or two. It's like just try not to miss 2 in a row. Yeah,
man, simple.
Yeah, so that's meditation. Breath work. Breath work, something that I have been exposed to a fair bit over the last couple of years, and ice baths. I'm a big fan of Wim Hof's work, obviously. So I literally, same thing, YouTube. There's a 20-minute Wim Hof 4-round breath work that I do on there every morning. I literally just click play, lie under a weighted blanket and do that for 20 minutes as soon as I wake up each morning. Cool. Just kickstarts my day. And then gratitude, like I said, whether you do join the 1% Club, you send it in on Instagram. That accountability definitely does help quite a bit. So yeah, if you want to join that, it's completely free. Just send out the Good Human Factory DM saying I want to join the club. But yeah, other than that, brush your teeth. What are you grateful for that day? What other little things can people do? I think just the first step comes back to taking responsibility, trying to get out of that victim mindset. What can I do? Realizing that I have the power, and so many excuses we can make. But what I've sort of learned, and a great little quote that I think that makes sense to this, I'll give you 2. One is maturity is when you stop blaming. I think that's a really good one. It kind of takes age out of maturity. There's a lot of 50-year-olds that I'm sure you'd look at and go, yeah, far out. They do just blame everything. Victim. So maturity is when you stop blaming. And another one is shortcuts don't lead to the destination you desire. It's like if you want to get somewhere, if you take a shortcut, you'll get there and you won't actually feel that fulfilled. So shortcuts don't lead to the destination we desire.
Have you gone down the stoicism rabbit hole?
Not really, but I know I should, because these are all quotes that I've sort of come up with when I've just been like intensely thinking. But I need to read into stoicism a bit more.
Man, you got a lot of wisdom, and you say it really well. And there's a story in Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. I've got like all his books up on the shelf.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on your shelf after this.
I don't know the truth in this story, but he says it's about Hercules, and he said like Hercules came to a point in his life where he had an option where, like, if he took the left, there was this goddess there that tempted him with all the pleasures in life, the sex, the food, the no hard work, and like he could have everything that he wanted. Or if he went the other way and he took the hard road, which was like challenge, which was pressure, which was hard work, but it ultimately led him to the destination of him being the best version of him. And we're having those moments every day, whether it's the snooze button, whether it's the finish your emails, whether it's to do the thing you said you're going to do, whether it's to cut early on the air bike when you it says 10 seconds, do you finish the 10 seconds? Like we're having those micro moments every single day. So that's kind of what kind of spurred that in me, man. Man, we could talk for another 2 hours, to be honest with you.
I'll have to get you on mine, have a chat soon.
I'd love to, man. I love I love this stuff. 2 questions is, what's something that you're working through right now that the world isn't seeing? Could be personal. Could
Where
be
do I want to go
professional.
about this?
Wherever
I'm
you
trying to
are,
think. There's a
takes you.
couple things. I mean, I just started going to therapy for the first time ever, like 2 weeks ago, which
Yeah.
was really cool. It's something that I don't feel like I like needed based on my own mental health, but there's just a few things that I just wanted to get out of my mind and talk to somebody from outside the jar.
Beautiful.
Actually, that was a good analogy someone used with me yesterday. It's like you can't read the label from inside the jar. So it's like,
That's
you
cool.
need to
That's-
get someone from outside your jar to actually read what's going on the outside on the label.
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, that was a good one. So yeah, I saw a psychologist, and the thing that I kind of wanted to talk to him about, and it'll make sense probably to some of the listeners, I'd felt this weird, like, not lack of purpose, but lack of connection to what I've been doing the last month or two. And I've just been trying to work out why. And from speaking to the psychologist, he kind of went on to talk about the fact that we have purpose and then we have connection. And he said, you've got such strong purpose, obviously, for what you're doing, but there might be a bit of a disconnect right now with the connection with the people that you're working with and stuff like that. So that's something I'm just working on to reconnect and get that fire of jumping out of bed each morning. I feel like I've gotten a little bit stale and stagnant. Yeah. Which I feel guilty about because I've got the best job in the world. I go around, talk to people, make their lives better, get to host a podcast with incredible guests, get to do fun stuff and work with amazing people. Yeah. So I feel guilty that I've been feeling a little bit flat, but I'm also accepting of that and trying to work through it. So that's something that I'm going through at the moment.
That's powerful, man. Something I've really enjoyed about this is your level of wisdom. The way you articulate is fucking awesome. But your realness, your presence. You're a normal guy doing normal shit, but you're failing forward, you're learning from others, you're learning from books, you're taking action, and it's just, I think just the realness with you has been fucking awesome, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
I really appreciate
that.
it. Where can people find you? I've obviously mentioned the name of a fair few things, but is there a best way for someone to contact you? Say thanks for the podcast, I'm interested in joining the group, I'm interested in your services. What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a fair few things, but the best thing is Instagram, obviously, just at Cooper Chapman is my Instagram, super simple. The Good Human Factory on Instagram is just The Good Human Factory. If you want to join the 1% Club, just send us a DM saying, I want to join the club. You get added in. It's completely free. Always will be. If you want to learn about the workshops, the merch, all that stuff, head over to thegoodhumanfactory.com. If you want to pick up any of the merch, you like it, use the code podcast. I give anyone who I come on their podcast 25% discount code. I just like getting to see it out in the public. It's not my biggest money maker, the merch, but it's just a way to spread the message.
Man, I'm a black and white dude. You got black and white stuff.
Yeah, everything I do is black or white. So it's good. You're good. Man. So yeah, the website's just thegoodhumanfactory.com. Podcast is just Good Humans with Cooper Chapman on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all that stuff. And yeah, we just started a YouTube channel putting out behind the scenes with our ambassadors, and the Humankind event episode just came out today with Wim Hof and stuff. We'll put it on the TV. I'll watch the Wim Hof bit with you after this. But yeah, reach out. I'm always open for a chat. If you have any questions about what I do or want to learn more about my work, I'm always super open.
Love it, man. Love your work, love your mission, love your realness, and love the impact you're making, man. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Guys, thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, share this with a friend, and have a beautiful day. Speak to you soon.
Beauty.